name is Maria Mateo. I am an attorney here in New York, and I am also an attorney in my country, the Dominican Republic. I came here in 2008 to study at St. John's University, and I passed the bar exam in 2009. After that, I opened my own practice, and I've been practicing immigration law ever since.
I didn't know you were Dominican. I'm Dominican as well, so nice to
I
have
can
you.
tell, definitely.
Thank you so much. Yes, that's awesome to hear. And just want to go, we have a few questions that we're going to ask Maria beforehand, just to dive right into it. But again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. So Maria, how long have you been practicing immigration law for?
So since 2010, when I got my bar exam, when I passed the bar exam and I got my last license.
Awesome. And why immigration law specifically?
Well, I'm an immigrant myself, and anybody who is not from the United States that has stepped into a consulate knows that it is actually a very traumatic experience, either waiting for a visa or waiting for petitioning for someone. Stepping into a consulate, it's pretty much stepping into prison. It's very much like it. And it's, since I was a kid that I would used to go to the consulate and try to get a visa, I had my mom's visa denied. So it was only natural that I tried to help my community by facilitating, immigration processes for them. And this is how I fell in love with trying to help people that were on deportation proceedings or were in need of help with family petitions to come to the United States.
Awesome. And can you walk us through what the process looks like to become a citizen for those who aren't familiar with the process?
The process of becoming a citizen, first, you could be a citizen by birth, obviously. If you were born outside of the United States, you can also become a citizen if one of your parents is a US citizen. If you do it before the age of 18, after the age of 18, it's a little bit more difficult. If it's your mom, the US citizen, it's fine, but if it's the dad, it's the law is biased. And you have to demonstrate that you live with your dad, that he has custody, and a lot of requirements. But if you're lucky enough that your parents petition for you and they file for your green card and you obtain a green card and you are in the United States, if it's been more than 5 years since your parents petitioned for you, then you can take an exam and you have to study about 100 questions. After that, then if you pass the test and you speak English, then at that point you can take an oath and become a US citizen.
What is that the test ask about? Is it like US history related or about the law specifically?
It's about a lot of things, mainly civic questions. So who is your senator? Who is the president? Many things about history as well. And then they give you an English test. So you have to write something and you also have to speak with the officer. So it's varied. You have to have 6 out of 10 questions correct. And the questions that you have to study are 100 questions.
Oh, very interesting. I always heard about this test, but I wasn't too sure what was on it. So thanks for clearing that up. So if there, so if you are, you could become a dual citizen though, right, in the US and still be citizen to your native country, is that correct?
That is correct, if your country allows it. The United States allows for you to have dual citizenship if you have parents from another country, if you were born in another country, you could keep both nationalities and you have to pledge allegiance to both. You also have to pay taxes in both countries, so that is a problem. But if you're fine with it, you can have dual citizenship in the United States as well.
Awesome, that's good to know. And what type of documentation do people typically bring when they're applying or meeting with an attorney at first to start walking through the process of becoming a citizen?
You need to, first of all, the most important document is your taxes. You need to have paid the last 3 years of taxes, and you need to have good moral character. So that means no arrest for the past 5 years. And you also need to bring, a copy of your green card and your birth certificate and your passport, proof of your entries, proof if you have been working. Once you reach that point that you can file for a citizenship, the documents are not much, but you need to prove the two main things are the taxes and proof that you have not been arrested.
So it would be pretty difficult for someone that entered the United States illegally to be able to apply for citizenship if they don't have the green card to show. Is that correct?
Almost impossible. So when you enter the United States through the border, you have to, and you stay here for more than a year, you have an inadmissibility problem for 10 years. So you have to request a waiver. And that waiver, it's only given if you're married to a US citizen. The process of obtaining the waiver is about 2 years, 2 to 3 years. Once the waiver is granted, then you have to leave the country. You have to do an interview outside of the country in your consulate. And if you have any criminal issues, you're not coming back. If you have drug problems, I had a case in which my client did not tell me that he was using drugs. They do a medical test. He didn't pass it. So he was never able to come back. So medical issues, or I had another client with tuberculosis. So anything infectious, you're not gonna be able to come back to the United States. But there is a way. You just need to file for a waiver if you enter illegally and have a spouse that is a US citizen. Otherwise, you can't adjust or do anything in the United States that is not a humanitarian visa. For example, an asylum, a U visa for victims of crimes, victims of trafficking, or victims of domestic violence. Also, there is another one for minors. So we hear a lot of people crossing from Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Mexico, all these kids that are called unaccompanied minors. They cross the border and they can adjust in the United States through something that is called special immigrant juvenile. So minors that enter that were abandoned or neglected by their parents, if they come by themselves, they could become citizens.
That's a lot to, I can see a lot of people running into a lot of issues trying to get that piece together. So I know that that might impact a lot more than we are aware of at this point. So thanks for clearing that up.
Yes,
and I guess when we're talking about visas, can you kind of explain the process of like what different types of visas and how you may be able to find a sponsor or be a sponsor for someone who needs one?
Okay, it depends on the type of visa. So if it's a tourist visa, just a simple visa to come and visit the United States, you don't really need a sponsor. You need to show sufficient income to come to the United States and apply. That's a permit that you need to come to the United States. Not everybody has the privilege of being able to step here. You need to have proof of income. The other types of visa, yes, you need a sponsor, for example, a work visa. You need a sponsor for a work visa unless you have extraordinary abilities. You're a scientist, you're an athlete, something like that. But otherwise, if it's just a simple work visa, a simple tourist visa, you can do it by yourself. If it's a family petition, you need to have also sufficient income to bring that person into the United States. You need to prove that those people are not going to become a burden to the US government.
Very good to know. And I know like right now we have some people that are on like 1099 visas. Is there anything that they can do once that, or sorry, the work visas that are sponsored by like a company? Is there anything that they can do after that expires to become a citizen, like to continue to work, or do they have to go through the whole citizenship process once that expires?
Once that expires, there are some type of visa that your own employer could sponsor you to become a citizen, not all of them. The only other way is marrying a US citizen or having someone adjust status for you in the United States. So either you change status to something else, but automatically work visas will not give you US citizenship.
Okay. What about for non-US citizens, do you know if you're able to apply for home ownership if you don't have like the documentations to show if you're a citizen?
Definitely you can. You can own a business, you can own a home. If you are legal in the United States, that's not a problem. You can definitely have ownership of businesses or properties.
Awesome. And so I guess when someone goes into maybe like a courthouse or something to start the process of becoming a citizenship, is that the first step that someone should take, or should they be seeing a lawyer beforehand that'll handle the process within the court system?
Well, the problem with the immigration law is that it doesn't give you the same rights as, for example, if you're in a criminal proceeding. When you go to an immigration court, you don't get an attorney assigned. If you're put on deportation, you're on your own. So basically, obviously, you are gonna have the best outcome if you hire an attorney that knows how to navigate the legal system. The immigration system is very complicated. And the laws change with every government. The laws that we had with President Trump are very different than what we have now. The regulations, the priorities are very different. So it's very important to have someone that could help you navigate that process. You will not get an attorney assigned in court. You need to bring your own private attorney.
And about how much does it cost to hire an attorney or to work with an attorney, if you know like a ballpark for what that would cost to someone?
So many attorneys charge a flat fee. It depends on the process. Others will work by the hour, and the hours ranges from $350 if you're in Queens like me. Other attorneys in the city will go up to $700 an hour.
Wow.
Yes, it's very
That's a lot.
costly.
Yes, and so the whole process in general, let's say, you know, you're in the States legally and you're applying for the citizenship with an attorney, how much would you say like legal fees and the whole process might cost someone?
If it's a simple citizenship, around $1,000. But if you have a criminal issue, that will go up to $5,500.
That is expensive. I can imagine a lot of people, you know, that's definitely hard to be able to find those funds to be able to get to the end of the tunnel for that. So I can imagine that's tough. And if you had any advice for someone for if they're looking for a lawyer in their area, is there any specific requirements that they should look for when they're researching the attorney, or how should they go about finding someone that can work for them?
Definitely. If it's an immigration attorney, it's very important to go through what it's called AILA. AILA is the Immigration Attorneys Association. And if you're verified with AILA, that means that you are an immigration attorney. There's a lot of ripoff with immigration attorneys. There are a lot of notary public that pretend to be an attorney, and then, you know, people just get robbed with their money. So it's very important to sit down with the person, ask their qualifications, make sure that they're attorneys, make sure that they're certified by AILA. And when you meet them in person, just ask the right questions, make sure that they know what they handle it and that they're passionate about it. Not only that they have the qualifications, a lot of people have the qualifications. Everybody goes to, you know, the same school, same programs, but you need to have the drive, you need to have the passion for what you're doing. You need to know that what you're doing is going to help that person, and you need to feel that. If you don't feel that, move on, next one.
Absolutely, that's great advice there. So we did have a pre-submitted question from someone, and I'm not too sure what the acronym AOS is. Can you clarify that for me before I ask this question?
Yes, AOS is this person knows. AOS is an adjustment of status.
Okay, adjustment of status.
Yes,
So the
when
question
you have
here,
one status in the United States, you need to adjust to another one.
okay. So the question here is, if there is an AOS from a mother to a son and the petitioner passes, what are the next steps? Is mother son the better option for AOS? Will brother be any faster? Neutralized USC, mother naturalized USC, brother married adult, son/brother, if that makes sense to you.
Yes, it did. It does make sense. So when somebody petitions for you and there is some delay and the petitioner passes, you can still continue with the case. Many people don't know this information, but it is true. You can file what is called an I-360 and you can substitute the sponsor. So a brother is a great way to substitute. It has to be someone closely related to the petitioner. And if you have a US citizen brother, that's perfect. What you need to have into consideration is that, like I said, somebody needs to have money to sponsor this person to stay in the United States. There is an income requirement. So make sure that the sponsor or somebody else that it's gonna help you meets that income requirement so that you can continue the petition. But it doesn't go away. You can still continue the petition.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. And I know it depends on, it probably depends on the state, like what the income would require, the income max requires, is that correct? Is it maybe state by state or direct address? How specific does it get?
It's federal. So it's based on the poverty guidelines of the previous year. So if you want to sponsor one person in the United States, the minimum income for one person is $19,000. If you want to sponsor two, it's gonna be $24,000. Three, $29,000. So it goes up. You can follow the way. It's minimum. It's a poverty guidelines, but a lot of people don't make that much.
Right. And what if, what type of documentation is needed? Is that something that someone that is self-employed can provide, like tax returns to show that income? Is that okay?
Yes, so we're gonna need the taxes, the 1040. If they're self-employed, you can add the 1099 or the W-2 if you have an employer. You also need a work letter. And if you're self-employed, that could be your accountant to give you that job letter. So basically with that and the pay stubs, if you have pay stubs, you could show that you have sufficient income.
Okay, awesome. Good to know. Does anyone on the call have any questions that they want to unmute and ask or throw in the chat to ask Maria?
No, thank you for answering. That was my question. The one that
Okay,
you read.
perfect. Okay, good. I'm like, I hope I got that written down just in case you weren't on the call. So I'm glad. Do you have any other questions regarding this at all? You're good. Perfect. Thank you for joining. Awesome. I'm glad you got to answer that for Maria. And so I guess we still have a good amount of time here if anyone has any questions and wants to throw it in the chat. But Maria, is there any, I guess, any advice that you can give someone that might be frustrated with the system or just the process in general, if they're maybe, currently undergoing this with the recent change in administration that they might be stuck in the middle between?
Yeah, there's always hope. It's very difficult. There is the law it changes so much that there is always hope. Some clients that I had under the previous administration now if they were in deportation proceedings, now they have something that is called PD or prosecutorial discretion, which is given to the TAs or the trial attorneys. And they can close the deportation cases of people that basically don't have criminal convictions. Their deportations are stopped. They can stay, they can get a work permit. So as long as you have good moral character, as long as you have not been arrested, the judges will help you. So that's the important thing. If we come here to work and do the right thing, there is always a way to keep you here. Okay?
Awesome. And I know this might be something that hasn't gone into effect yet, but I know that the previous administration was trying to not allow some people coming into the States that are past a certain amount of months in pregnancy to prevent the pregnancy from happening in the US to grant citizenship automatically. Is that just like, was that just rumor? Is that something seriously that they're, implementing now, or?
No, right now this week, actually, the president of Biden changed the priorities, and pregnant women are gonna be allowed to come in, and unaccompanied minors too. So yes, there were discussions about that in the previous administrations. That's not longer a rule. Right now, pregnant women can come in, and minors below 21 years old can come in and claim special immigrant juvenile.
Awesome. And I guess in light of current events that are going on, if someone is here, seeking asylum, is it the same process that they would go through to possibly become a citizen, or is it handled differently if you are currently being held seeking for an asylum case?
Asylums, you need to be under an asylum status for 1 year before becoming a resident. So before you become a citizen, you have to become a resident for 5 years. Asylum seekers, when their asylums are granted, it's for 1 year, then they can become citizens at 5. I'm sorry, yes, a resident at 1 and then citizens at 5. But if you don't speak English, you're never gonna be able to become a citizen. So that's a big hurdle for asylum seekers. Asylum is a very difficult process. It's very difficult to grant asylum right now. And we don't know what the asylum laws are gonna look like, because everything is pretty much stopped right now by law. So we have Title 42, which is preventing everyone from coming into the United States because of public health reasons. So all asylum seekers are being returned back to Mexico.
Okay. Well, I know that's a lot of people might be affected by that right now. So that's interesting to hear, especially the 5-year requirement. Is that something that most people are able to meet, or if are they able to work during the 5 years that they're here without it, if they have the correct visa to be able to work, so they can maintain here for 5 years?
Absolutely. You can, if you are under applying for asylum, if you're seeking asylum after 6 months of your application, you can get a work permit. And you can work until your asylum application is decided. After you're granted asylum, you get a work permit forever, indefinitely. So yes, they can definitely work.
Okay. And I know some people are under the maybe misconception that people that are, immigrants that are trying to get their citizenship aren't paying, taxes and Social Security, but that's incorrect information, correct? Like that's something that if they're working, they're going through the same process as us that are currently working and citizens as well, to still be able to contribute financially to the United States.
That's a great question. You're never going to be able to obtain any immigration benefits if you don't pay taxes. That's the number one rule. It doesn't matter if you have a US citizen spouse, daughter, parent, it doesn't matter. If you are working and you can work, you have to pay taxes. So if you don't have a Social Security number, you can get an ID number, which is given by the IRS so that you can pay taxes. So definitely, any application, a judge will never adjudicate anything if you have not paid taxes.
Okay. And as far as some of the benefits that we received for like COVID relief, if they were ever going to do something like that again, is someone that is a resident but not a citizen, are they able to get like the $1,200 from COVID relief, or are they not being accounted in those numbers for any type of scenario like that?
Yes, permanent residents are accounted for any COVID relief benefits.
Awesome. And I guess too with when it comes to medical, if they need to go to the hospital and whatnot, do we see that a lot are, uninsured because they're not citizens, or is there a way to get some sort of insurance before you become a citizen?
After you become a resident, you have pretty much all the rights as a US citizen. You can apply for benefits. You can apply for health insurance, everything that you receive as a citizen. The only difference is you're not gonna be able to vote, for example. And you're not gonna be able to receive a pension. But if you are a resident, you're entitled to all benefits. Before you become a resident, then there is the public charge problem. And you have to prove that you're not gonna become a public charge. So before you become a resident, then you can't get any type of governmental benefits. You need to prove that you can support yourself. And if you get benefits, you can't prove that. So you will be deemed inadmissible, even for a visa.
Oh, wow. And so this is, things such as Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment. So that's something that if they were able to prove that they were, financially stable, but then something happened that deemed them not, they can still tap into those benefits that are provided to citizens as well.
Yes, for green card holders, yes. The problem with this is, for example, and I get this a lot, some people, for example, come to the United States and they're pregnant and they give birth in the United States. That's perfectly fine until the bill is paid by the government. If you apply for Medicare or Medicaid benefits in the United States with a visa, let's say, you are not going to be able to renew your visa or obtain any benefits, immigration benefits in the United States. You can come and give birth, but you have to pay your own health insurance. And that's a mistake that a lot of people make. Then they get their visa canceled or not renewed because of this problem.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of people don't know that little caveat and then, are stuck in a situation that makes it really hard for them to continue, to be able to move forward with that. And I guess a lot of times too, we do see that, the children are the ones that are citizens and their parents are now trying to become, get the citizenship there. Is the child allowed to be like a sponsor per se? Like if they're the citizen that was born here and their parents are trying to come to the US to become citizens, how does that work?
That's a tricky question because it depends on how you enter the United States. If you enter through the border, your child can petition for you, but you will never be able to adjust status to a resident status. If you enter with a visa, your child could petition for you and you can adjust status in the United States. So pretty much, if you enter through the border, it's gonna be almost impossible unless you ask for the waiver. And the waiver, like I said before, it's only granted if you're married to a US citizen or your parents are US citizens.
Got that. And I watch a lot of shows on some reality shows like 90 Day Fiance, where people get married and then have 90 days before they have to tie the knot to be able to stay in the US. Is that really how it is explained, or do they just make it dramatic for TV?
I love that show. I watch the show. My husband finds it so weird, but I love it because it's real. And this is exactly what happens. And it is, people fall in love now through, apps.
Mm-hmm.
And they fall in love so many miles away. They meet for 2 weeks and then they fall in love and they bring this person to the United States. After waiting for years, 2 to 3 years. Once they come in here, they only have 90 days together to get married. And if you don't, that person is out. They need to leave. So it is a very interesting process to see it because once they come here, a lot of them, they're not a match. Some of them, they are. The majority, they do not make it. So it's very interesting. A lot of the things that happen in the show, they happen to my clients a lot. Then they
And
come
that's
to
the,
us first.
oh man, and that's the same thing where they have to go through the process. This might be more for like a marriage, side of things, but they have to go through a process where they're both interviewed, like things need to check out that they're legitimately in a relationship to be able to apply for that citizenship. And it's not like a weird setup just to obtain a green card, like most people kind of think too.
And that happens a lot too. A lot of people try to trick the system. It's very difficult because they require a lot of proof. When you're married, you need to show that it is a real marriage. And when the officer has doubts, you're referred to what's called a Stokes interview. A Stokes interview, they will separate you from your spouse and they will ask both of you the same questions. And those questions, you could be there a whole day. Then they put you back together and they will compare the responses. And if you have anything wrong, they will completely do, it's an interrogation. And some of those questions are insane. They will bring you in, you have to draw your room and how many windows and where's the TV located and how many cable boxes do you have? And you have to tell them where is the refrigerator, and you have to show them how you open the door and how many locks do you have. It's crazy.
Wow.
What you go through in these interviews.
Wow.
If it's not real and you go to a Stokes interview, you will not be able to pass that.
And so this is conducted in the person's native language, I'm assuming, or else that might be really confusing to describe a refrigerator.
No, you have a translator, which makes it worse.
Ooh.
Sometimes there is a translation problem, and that's where an attorney that knows your language comes into the hand. It's handy because you'll be able to immediately correct any mistakes. It happens a lot.
Oh yeah.
But they will provide a translator.
Okay. And we did have a question. Any advice to make smoother the process to get the green card that you have for us?
The advice will be to be prepared. Even before you file, you should have all the evidence. And make sure that if it's a marriage space, which is what we're talking about right now, you have what the government requires, which is, for example, proof that you live together, bills under both of your names, bank accounts where both of you pay, because you need to have credit cards under both of your names or debit cards and use them. They will go through the statements and make sure that both of you are using the credit card. So it's very important to have all the documents ready for the interview for a really long time. Preparation is key. Get all the documents, make sure that you know each other, and trust the process. Once you're ready, trust the process.
Love that. And that would be so joint bank accounts, or just being able to use like a joint credit card that you guys can both use. Does it matter if it's like a bank account or a credit card specifically?
It could be both. Either one. It could be a bank account or with a debit card or a credit card. It does matter that you use it. Even if it's a debit card or a credit card, you do everything with those accounts. You pay the light bill, you pay the rent, your income comes through that account. So you have to commingle the finances when you are going through an immigration process.
Very good to know. I know a lot of, just from my experience with my family coming here, I know it took, some people, it would take a few months for them to get their visa to be able to come. And then others, it took a few years. And so it's just it just seems like it's just up in the air, and depending on how much backlog the system kind of has. Is that correct? Or would you say it's more so the preparation that, someone has and their background with their history and all that kind of could delay it?
Well, not finding the right documentation will delay the process definitely, but there is a lot of backlog. Now with COVID, all the embassies are pretty much closed. They're only issuing emergency or work visas. For a person from Mexico, for example, you need to see which country this person is from. If it's from Mexico, you could wait 20 years to bring someone into the United States. It also depends if it's a citizen or a resident. So there are a lot of factors, but you should expect that if it's not a work visa or a tourist visa, you're gonna be waiting for years.
Wow, 20 years. That could be absolutely insane. I can't imagine the families that are going through separation like that, just waiting for, the system to process everything for them to be able to be reunited.
It's pretty horrible, yes.
And right now with COVID, and some of the borders being closed and stuff, is there anything that has changed with the process of becoming a resident or anything like that, just for the time being, and COVID and everything kind of that's going on in the system right now that may be different now than it was before?
Well, it's the delays. There's always been delays, but now there is more delays. So when President Biden took office, he reopened the consulates for petitions from green card holders. Citizen petitions was never stopped. So green card holders, they're working right now on the people that had interviews on March and April of 2020. So since President Biden took office, they're working on those 2 months. So the delays are substantial.
Absolutely.
You could imagine all of my clients with their case stopped, it's very difficult for them to understand what's going on. How could a consulate be closed? I have to explain every single day to many clients that everything is closed and stopped. It's a very difficult situation right now.
And do people lose money that they might have paid for filing if it lapses too long? If it's been like they filed like their documents and paid whatever the amount is, and it's been maybe 5 years since they, maybe got declined or weren't accepted to reapply, do people lose out on a lot of money for that?
Now, fortunately, no. That's something that's been taken into consideration. People who had their interviews canceled, the fees have been extended if you paid fees until December of 2022.
Okay.
So the government has taken into consideration what's going on with the pandemic, and they have extended the validity of the fees.
And are these interviews taking place at a courthouse, like a regular courthouse building, or is there a specific place that those interviews are held?
So the immigrant visas and the tourist visas, if you're outside of the United States, you go to your consulate. If it's a family petition in the United States, you have to go to USCIS offices, immigration offices. They're all over. And if you are on deportation proceedings, then you have to go in front of a judge. If it's in New York, we have courts in Barrett Street, Broadway, and Federal Plaza.
So just in the whole New York, there's pretty much 3 places that they can go for that in all of.
Yes, and we don't even
Wow.
have a jail. Our detainees, we send to New Jersey.
Interesting.
Yes.
I can imagine how many cases are going on in New York City for it to be held in just 3 buildings. It's very interesting.
Well, we have 600 cases nationwide. I'm sorry, 600 judges nationwide, and we have 1.2 million immigration cases, which means that 600 judges have to handle 1.2 million cases. The backlog is impossible. I'm getting dates for my clients for 2022 to see a judge.
Wow. That is absolutely insane. Is there like a cap on that, or just there's not enough people that are in this space? Because that doesn't seem like a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. I feel sorry for the judges.
Yeah,
We need more judges.
absolutely. Well, does anyone have any other questions they want to either unmute to ask or throw in the chat for us? Maria, thank you so much for being here. I know we had asked a lot of questions that weren't accounted for, so thank you so much. I know, let's see, it looks like Cynthia does have a question here. I don't know if you want to unmute or throw it in the chat, Cynthia, but do whatever you're most comfortable with. Maria, do you see the chat there?
Yes.
Okay.
So her parents left the country in 2011 due to health issues. They were unable to come back. Were they US residents or they had a visa? They were residents. Okay. So if you are a resident, one requirement is that you have to reside in the United States. And if you leave the country for more than a year, it will be deemed that you abandoned your green card status. You have to ask for a permit to leave the United States. This is another difference between a citizen and a resident. A citizen can leave the United States and reside anywhere they want. They don't have to ask permission. But when you are a US resident, this is a benefit that the government is giving you, and you need to ask permission to leave the United States and stay outside of the country for more than 1 year. So they couldn't renew their permit, but have they tried to come back into the United States? Because if they had a green card, they come back in, what's going to happen is that CBP is going to issue a notice to appear in front of a judge. And the judge will grant them the opportunity to say why they stayed. If they stayed for health reasons, and they have proof that they stayed for health reasons, and they can show that they did not intend to abandon their residence in the United States, they could get their green card back. The judges are very reasonable when something like this happens. So my recommendation, if they still have the green card, they can come in, they will get stopped by CBP, they will be given a notice to appear in court, and they will have to see a judge for a couple of years, but they will get their green card back. If you're a citizen and they don't have their green card, then you could refile for your parents. Fortunately, there is no waiting period for citizens petitioning for their parents. So they can come in fairly quickly. In about 1.5 years to 2 years, they can have their green card back. That's another option. So if she wants, she can tell me the details. She can give me a call, send me I'm gonna give my social media here, and I'm gonna put it in the chat. Perfect. So you can send me a DM. It's Maria Mateo Law. And this is on all the platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So send me a DM, or you can find my contact information there, and we can talk about, the best way to bring them. But it seems like they can come back.
Thank you so much for diving into that, and thank you for the question, Cynthia. We have a few more minutes here if anyone has anything else they'd like to add. But yes, definitely follow Maria on Instagram, the social medias that you're on. I think that's, having someone that we never know when questions or situations might come up in our lives. And I think it's really important to kind of build your network, to have someone that in your back pocket that you might be able to reach out to in case anything like that does come up. So the beauty of social media is that we can, have that in our back pocket for whenever we need. And then can always reach out to Maria with additional questions if that comes up in the future.
Definitely, and stay connected.
Yes, for sure. Well, if no one has any other questions, I do want to thank everyone for attending today. We really appreciate it. And Maria, thank you so much for doing this for us. This has been super helpful and just really nice to be able to really dive in and talk about some important topics here with you today. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for everyone for giving me space, and I'll be available for any further questions that anybody has. And it's been a pleasure. Really
awesome. And if you don't mind staying on maybe for like 2 more minutes in case someone has a question that they didn't feel comfortable reaching out to the group and wants to ask you directly, is that okay? Maybe for like 2 more minutes, if anyone has anything personal they want to ask, might as well have a few more minutes here.
Perfect, no problem.
Thank you. Bye guys, have a good day.
Thank you.
I just wanted to see if anyone else maybe just didn't feel comfortable presenting the question to the group. Erica, did you have any questions at all by chance?
Hi, Erica.
Maybe she stepped away from her desk. Alrighty, but thank you so much, Maria. I really appreciate you. It was so nice meeting with you and talking to you.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much. You're great with the questions.
Thank you. And you were so good at asking or answering them. I'm sorry that some of them weren't pre-submitted. I was just kind of going with the conversation.
Oh,
And you
no,
were
I
able
love
to
that.
answer.
I love that. That's what
Yes,
I
no, you were great. Thank you so much. It was so nice meeting you.
Alright.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
You too. Let's stay connected.
Bye, Maria.
Bye.